Every family has a story. It is a river that flows through time. The story of the Lanier family begins long ago. It starts not with a single person, but with a name that whispers of ancient places and forgotten skills. The name Lanier is thought to come from the Old French language. Some say it means wool worker, from the word Lanier. Others believe it comes from the word lasnier, meaning a donkey driver. Both speak of a time when a person's name was their job. It was their identity. The name tells a story of hard work, of craft, and of a life connected to the land and the community around them. It is a simple name, but it holds a deep history within its letters. Imagine life in those early days, in the heart of medieval Europe. Life was hard, but it was also full of purpose. A wool worker, a Lanier, was a vital part of the village. They would take the raw fleece from the sheep. They would clean it, card it, and spin it into thread. This thread was the foundation of the community's clothing. It kept people warm in the harsh winters. It was traded at local markets for food and other goods. This work required patience and skill. It was a craft passed down from one generation to the next. This was the world where the Lanier name was likely born, a world of artisans, of families working together, and of a deep connection to the rhythms of the seasons. The other possible origin of the name, the donkey driver or lasnier, tells a different but equally important story. In a time before modern roads and vehicles, trade depended on sure-footed animals. Donkeys were essential for moving goods over difficult terrain. A donkey driver was a traveller, a merchant and a connector of towns and villages. They knew the winding paths and the best places to rest. They carried news and stories from one place to another. This life was one of constant movement and adaptation. It required a spirit of adventure and a strong sense of direction. Whether they were workers of wool or drivers of donkeys, the first Laniers were people of skill and determination. These two possible meanings paint a picture of the family's ancient soul. A soul built on the values of craftsmanship, hard work, and the importance of community. It suggests a people who were not lords or nobles, but the very backbone of society. They were the creators and the connectors. They understood the value of a well-made product and the importance of a reliable journey. This dual heritage, one of settled craft, the other of restless travel, would become a theme throughout the long saga of the Lanier family. It would shape their choices, fuel their ambitions, and guide them across oceans and continents for centuries to come. The story was just beginning. The story of the Laniers does not stay in one place. It is a story of movement. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the region of Flanders, now part of Belgium, was a centre of art and commerce. It was a place of incredible skill, especially in music and textiles. Here, the Laniers were known as talented musicians. They played instruments like the flute, the viol, and the sackbut, an early trombone. They were part of a vibrant culture of artistic creation. But this was also a time of great turmoil. Religious conflicts, particularly between Protestants and Catholics, were tearing Europe apart. For a Protestant family like the Laniers, life became dangerous. They had to make a choice, stay and face persecution, or leave and find a new home. They chose to leave. Their journey took them from Flanders to France. Here they found temporary safety and continued to hone their musical craft. They were a family of artists, and their talent was their passport. They did not travel as refugees with nothing, but as skilled professionals seeking a place where their abilities would be valued. This migration was not easy. It meant leaving behind everything they knew, their home, their friends, and the land of their ancestors. But it also showed their resilience. They carried their skills with them. They carried their music with them. And most importantly, they carried their family with them, supporting one another on the difficult road ahead. The next chapter of their journey took them across the English Channel. In the late 1500s, England's Queen Elizabeth I was building a magnificent court. She loved music and the arts. She invited the best musicians from all over Europe to come and play for her. Among those who answered the call were the Laniers. In 1561, Nicholas Lanier the Elder, a talented musician, arrived in London. He soon found a position in the Queen's court. He became one of the royal musicians. This was a position of great honour. It meant security, a steady income, and the chance to be at the very centre of English culture and power. He had found a safe haven for his family and a place for their talents to shine. The Laniers quickly became a musical dynasty in the English courts. For over 100 years, generation after generation served as musicians to the Tudor and Stuart monarchs. They played at royal weddings, funerals, and grand state ceremonies. One of the most famous was Nicholas Lanier the Younger. Born in 1588, he was a composer, a singer, and a painter. He was a true Renaissance man. King Charles I appointed him as the very first master of the king's music, a prestigious title that still exists today. The Laniers were no longer just skilled artisans. They were celebrated artists, respected and admired in the highest circles of society. Their journey from Flanders had led them to a remarkable destiny. While some Laniers enjoyed fame and fortune in the English courts, others felt a different call. It was the call of the New World. America in the 17th century was a land of promise and peril. It offered the chance for land, for freedom, and for a new beginning. For families who were not in the direct line of royal favor, it was an opportunity to build something of their own. Around 1656, a man named John Lanier, a descendant of the musical family, decided to take that chance. He sailed from England to the Virginia colony. This was a brave and difficult decision. The journey across the Atlantic was long and dangerous, and life in the colonies was uncertain and hard. John Lanier settled in Charles City County, Virginia. This was the frontier. Life here was nothing like the refined courts of London. There were no grand halls or royal ceremonies. Instead, there was dense forest to be cleared, land to be cultivated, and a new society to be built from scratch. The Laniers had to adapt. Their old skills as musicians were not as valuable here as the skills of a farmer, a builder, or a survivor. They learned to work the land, planting crops like tobacco, which was the colony's economic lifeblood. They built simple homes and raised their families in a world that was both challenging and full of opportunity. They were pioneers, trading the glamour of the old world for the raw promise of the new. The Lanier family grew and spread throughout the southern colonies. From Virginia, they moved into North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. They were part of the great wave of settlement that pushed the American frontier slowly westward. Each new generation sought more land and new opportunities. They became landowners, planters, and respected members of their local communities. They helped establish churches, build towns, and create the laws that would govern their new society. They held on to their strong family bonds, supporting one another as they faced the challenges of colonial life. Their name became well known in the South, not for music, but for their hard work, their resilience, and their commitment to building a new life. In this new environment, the Lanier family developed a new identity. They were no longer just English, they were becoming American. They were shaped by the land, by the struggles of the frontier, and by the unique culture of the American South. They were independent and self-reliant, but they also understood the importance of community. They had to work with their neighbors to defend against attacks, to build roads, and to create a functioning society. The Laniers who came to America were not just seeking individual fortune, they were participating in the creation of a new nation. Their journey from the royal courts to the tobacco fields of Virginia was a profound transformation. As the 18th century progressed, the American colonies grew restless under British rule. The spirit of independence was rising, and the Laniers were caught up in the tide of history. When the American Revolution began, many Lanier family members answered the call to fight for freedom. They served as soldiers in the Continental Army and in local militias. They believed in the cause of liberty. For them, this was not just a political fight, it was a personal one. Their ancestors had come to America seeking a better life, and now they were fighting to protect that life and to build a new nation founded on the principles of freedom and self-government. Their service was a testament to their deep roots in American soil. One notable patriot was Benjamin Lanier of Georgia. He was a dedicated soldier and a leader in his community. He fought bravely in several campaigns during the war. His commitment to the cause of independence was unwavering. After the war, he continued to serve his new country, helping to establish the government of Georgia. He and other Laniers like him were not just soldiers, they were nation builders. They had traded their plows for muskets, and when the fighting was over, they helped turn the ideals of the revolution into the reality of a new republic. The family's legacy was now woven into the very fabric of the United States. With independence won, the nation began to look westward. The vast lands beyond the Appalachian Mountains called to a new generation of pioneers. The Laniers were part of this great westward expansion. They moved into new territories like Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. They were driven by the same spirit of adventure and the same quest for opportunity that had brought their ancestors to America. They cleared new land, established new farms, and founded new towns. They faced new challenges, from harsh weather to conflicts with Native American tribes, but they persevered. They were carrying the American dream westward, one wagon train at a time. This period of expansion further solidified the Lanier family's American identity. They were no longer confined to the coastal South. They were becoming a truly national family with branches spreading across the growing country. They adapted to different landscapes and different ways of life, from the rolling hills of Tennessee to the flatlands of the Mississippi Delta. Through it all, they maintained their strong sense of family. Letters and travelers kept different branches of the family connected. They shared news of births, deaths, and marriages. They helped new arrivals get settled. The Lanier family was like a great tree with its roots still in the colonial South, but its branches reaching out to every corner of the new nation. The first half of the 19th century was a time of growth and prosperity for the nation, but it was also a time of growing division. The issue of slavery split the country in two. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, it became the greatest test the Lanier family and the nation had ever faced. As a predominantly Southern family, the vast majority of Laniers found themselves on the side of the Confederacy. They fought for their homes, for their states, and for a way of life they had known for generations. They served in famous Confederate regiments, fighting in major battles from Gettysburg to Vicksburg. The war brought immense hardship and sacrifice. The experience of the war was brutal. Young Lanier men who had grown up on farms and plantations were thrust into the horrors of the battlefield. They endured long marches, poor food, and deadly combat. Many were wounded, many never came home. The letters they sent back to their families tell a story of courage, fear, and a deep longing for home. For the women and children left behind, life was also a struggle. They had to manage the farms and plantations on their own. They faced shortages of food and supplies. They lived with the constant fear of losing their husbands, sons, and brothers. The war was a trial by fire that tested the resilience of every family member. The most famous Lanier of this era was the poet Sidney Lanier. He was a sensitive and artistic soul, a throwback to his musical ancestors in the English court. He enlisted in the Confederate Army and served as a signalman. He was captured and held in a harsh Union prison camp. The terrible conditions there ruined his health. He contracted tuberculosis, a disease that would plague him for the rest of his short life. After the war, Sidney Lanier became one of the most important poets of the American South. His work often reflected on the beauty of nature and the tragedy of the war. He sought to heal the nation's wounds through art, just as his ancestors had once brought harmony through music. When the war ended in 1865, the South was in ruins. The Laniers, like countless other families, had lost everything. Their homes were destroyed, their fortunes were gone, and their world was turned upside down. The period of Reconstruction was a time of profound difficulty and change. They had to rebuild their lives from nothing. But the same spirit of resilience that had carried them across oceans and frontiers helped them now. They started over. They worked the land again, they opened new businesses, and they slowly began to piece their lives back together. The Civil War left deep scars on the Lanier family, but it did not break them. It was a painful chapter, but it was not the end of their story. The years after the Civil War, known as the Gilded Age, were a time of explosive industrial growth in America. Railroads crisscrossed the continent, great cities rose toward the sky, and new industries like steel, oil, and finance created immense fortunes. The Lanier family, though deeply rooted in the agricultural South, adapted to this new era. Some members of the family moved north seeking opportunities in the booming cities of New York and Baltimore. They entered the world of banking and finance, using their intelligence and determination to build new kinds of legacies. They were no longer just planters and farmers, they were becoming capitalists and industrialists. One of the most successful was James F.D. Lanier. Even before the Civil War, he had moved from the South to Indiana and then to New York City. He co-founded a banking house, Winslow, Lanier and Company, this firm became incredibly important. It helped finance the Union's efforts during the Civil War. After the war, it played a key role in funding the construction of railroads across the West. James Lanier was a visionary. He understood that the future of America was in industry and infrastructure. He used his wealth and influence to help build the modern American economy. His story shows how the family was able to pivot from an agrarian past to an industrial future. Other Laniers made their mark in different fields. Some became lawyers and doctors, serving the growing populations of the nation's cities and towns. Others went into politics, continuing the family's tradition of public service. They were part of a new professional middle class that was emerging in America. They believed in education, progress, and civic duty. They helped build hospitals, universities, and libraries. They were shaping the institutions that would define American life in the 20th century. The family was diversifying, with its members finding success in a wide range of professions. The name Lanier was becoming associated not just with land, but with leadership and innovation. As the 19th century turned into the 20th, the Lanier family stood in a new position. They had survived the devastation of the Civil War and had successfully navigated the incredible changes of the Gilded Age. The family was now more diverse than ever before. There were still Lanier farmers in the South, but there were also Lanier bankers in New York, Lanier doctors in Georgia, and Lanier lawyers in Texas. They represented a microcosm of America itself, a people with a deep connection to their past, but with their eyes fixed firmly on the future. They had proven, once again, their remarkable ability to adapt and to thrive in a changing world. The 20th century brought new challenges to the world, and the Lanier family once again answered the call to serve. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, young Lanier men enlisted in the armed forces. They left their farms, their offices, and their college campuses to fight in the trenches of France. They served in the army and the navy, facing the horrors of modern industrial warfare. They fought in places like the Meuse-Argonne offensive, one of the deadliest battles in American history. For them, it was a matter of duty. They were defending the same ideals of freedom that their ancestors had fought for in the American Revolution. The family's service continued into World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Laniers from all walks of life joined the war effort. They fought in the deserts of North Africa, on the beaches of Normandy, and on the islands of the Pacific. They served as soldiers, sailors, pilots, and Marines. One such story is that of Lieutenant William D. Lanier, a pilot who flew bombing missions over Europe. His bravery and the bravery of countless others like him helped to secure victory for the Allies. On the home front, Lanier women also played a crucial role. They worked in factories, building planes and ships. They served as nurses, caring for the wounded. They planted victory gardens and bought war bonds. The entire family was mobilized for the cause. The wars changed the Lanier family forever. The men and women who served came home with a broader perspective on the world. They had seen different countries and experienced different cultures. Many used the GI Bill to go to college, earning degrees and entering professions that might have been out of reach before the war. The family's horizons expanded. They were no longer just a southern or even a national family. They were becoming a global one. Some who served abroad ended up marrying and settling in other countries. The Lanier name began to appear in England, France, Australia, and beyond. The conflicts of the 20th century, while tragic, had scattered the seeds of the family across the globe. The legacy of service did not end with World War II. Laniers continued to serve in the armed forces during the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the conflicts in the Middle East. This tradition of military service became a point of pride for the family. It was a continuation of a pattern that had begun with the American Revolution. It was a commitment to country and to the defense of freedom. This history of sacrifice and duty became another important thread in the rich tapestry of the Lanier family story. It demonstrated that in times of national crisis, the Laniers could always be counted on to do their part. In the second half of the 20th century and into the 21st, the Lanier family continued to diversify and excel. The world was changing faster than ever before, and the Laniers were at the forefront of that change. They made significant contributions in science, technology, the arts, and public service. Their adaptability, a hallmark of the family for centuries, allowed them to thrive in the modern age. One of the most influential figures of this era is Jaron Lanier. He is a computer scientist, a writer, and a musician. He is widely recognized as one of the pioneers of virtual reality. His work has helped to shape the digital world we live in today, a fitting legacy for a family with deep roots in both art and innovation. As the family spread across the globe, staying connected became more important than ever. In the past, connections were maintained through letters and occasional visits. Today, technology has brought the global Lanier clan closer together. The internet has been a powerful tool. Family members use social media, email, and video calls to share news, photographs, and stories. Websites and online forums dedicated to Lanier genealogy allow relatives to trace their ancestry and discover connections they never knew they had. This digital reunion has helped to strengthen the bonds of family, even across vast distances. A Lanier in Georgia can now easily connect with a cousin in Australia, sharing their common heritage. Alongside these modern tools, the family also cherishes its old traditions. Family reunions are a cornerstone of Lanier life. These gatherings, held in different parts of the country, bring hundreds of relatives together. They share food, tell stories, and honor their ancestors. These events are a powerful reminder of their shared history and values. They allow the older generation to pass down stories to the younger generation. They help to keep the family spirit alive. In addition, family associations have been formed to preserve and promote the Lanier heritage. They publish newsletters, maintain historical records, and organize events, ensuring that the epic saga of the clan is not forgotten. Another exciting modern development has been the use of DNA testing to explore the family's ancient origins. Genealogical DNA tests have allowed many Laniers to confirm their connections to the historical family lines. This science has provided new insights into the family's journey. It has helped to verify the migration from France and England to America. For many, seeing the scientific proof of their heritage is a profound experience. It connects them in a tangible way to the musicians of the English court, to the pioneers of colonial Virginia, and to the ancient artisans of medieval Europe. It is a modern tool that illuminates the deepest roots of the family tree. The story of the Lanier family is a long and winding river flowing through more than 5 centuries of history. It began with skilled artisans in Europe, flowed through the royal courts of England, and crossed a great ocean to a new world. It is a story of adaptation and resilience. The Laniers were musicians who became farmers, farmers who became soldiers, and soldiers who became innovators. In each generation, they faced the challenges of their time with courage and determination. They built communities, fought for freedom, and contributed to the growth of a nation. Their legacy is not one of great kings or queens, but of steady, hard-working people who made a difference in the world around them. The strength of the Lanier family has always been its people. There are the famous individuals like the musician Nicholas Lanier, the poet Sidney Lanier, and the computer scientist Jaron Lanier. Their stories shine brightly. But the family's true legacy is also found in the countless other Laniers whose names are not in the history books. The farmers who cleared the land, the soldiers who defended their country, the mothers who raised their children, and the teachers who educated the next generation. Each one played a vital part in the ongoing saga. Their collective story is a testament to the power of family, faith, and perseverance. Today, the Lanier family is more diverse and widespread than ever before. They live on every continent. They work in every imaginable profession. They represent a beautiful tapestry of different backgrounds and experiences, yet they're all connected by a shared name and a shared history. They are all part of the same river. The values that have defined the family for centuries, hard work, adaptability, service, and a strong sense of community, continue to guide them. These values are the inheritance that is passed down from one generation to the next. They are the foundation upon which the future of the family will be built. What will the next chapter hold for the Laniers? That story is now being written by a new generation. They are young people who are growing up in a world of incredible change and opportunity. They will face new challenges and pioneer new frontiers, just as their ancestors did before them. They will write new songs, build new industries, and find new ways to serve their communities. The epic saga of Clan Lanier is far from over. It continues with every child who learns the story of their ancestors and dreams of the future. The river flows on, carrying the legacy of the past into the promise of tomorrow.